Alright, so today I was looking through my ball python females looking for eggs since we're right in the middle of the egg laying season, and I actually found my fourth clutch of ball python eggs for the season, which is pretty exciting. But this one could be a little bit problematic. So I actually go through all my tubs here in my reptile room twice a day looking for ball python eggs, and I actually cracked open a tub down on the bottom over here in the rack, and this is one of my biggest females, and she actually had one egg in there this morning. I was pretty excited. I was like, alright, I'm just going to close up the tub and let her sit in there and lay the rest of her eggs over the next few hours. And usually ball pythons, once they start laying eggs, they'll usually lay all the eggs within usually an hour or two, and they'll actually group them all in a big mass and clump them all together. And I actually went in there a few hours later, right around noon, opened up that tub, and to my surprise, she still only had one egg, and she actually kind of kicked it out of her coil. She's like all coiled up in the back over the hot spot, and that kind of had me concerned. So if I actually go in there right now and she still has one egg, that could be really problematic. So I've actually seen a couple snakes here in my collection over the last 6 years. I've actually had two females that were egg bound, and usually with an egg bound female they'll lay a few eggs, and a lot of times they'll actually lay most of the eggs, and then sometimes they'll have like one or two eggs still stuck inside of them. They're just kind of bound in there and they don't lay them with the rest of the group. And I found pretty much in my experience, if they actually pass those eggs a couple days later, those eggs every single time in my experience they don't hatch, which is a bummer. So potentially this girl could have one egg and be egg bound with up to 9 eggs, because she's a really big girl and she usually lays big clutches of eggs, like 10 eggs, which is kind of crazy. So potentially, you know, if she actually lays all those eggs like tomorrow or even in 2 or 3 days, I'd say there's a high probability that none of those hatchlings would actually hatch, which would be a real bummer. So hopefully when I go in there, we'll actually find a whole bunch of eggs underneath that female instead of just the one lone egg off to the side. So let's jump over to that female and check her out, and hopefully we'll find a bunch of eggs under this big female ball python. Alright, so this girl lives way down here in an ARS 8018 tub. Her name is Poplar, and this is a pastel pinstripe from 2010, a really old ball python. So she is 11 years old, which is kind of crazy. This one we think may be a Volta, which is like a certain locality of ball pythons that get a little bit bigger than some of your other ball pythons, and it looks like she still has one lone egg. Oh no, which could really be a problem. I don't think she has any other eggs under her, which is a real bummer. So just kind of moving around just a little bit, no other eggs. That is really concerning on that one. That is kind of a bummer. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably just take this one egg. It looks like it's a good egg, and I'll set it up in an egg box, put it in the incubator, and hopefully within, hopefully tonight she'll actually lay the rest of these eggs. But I'm kind of concerned that she could possibly be egg bound with all those other eggs. And look at how big she is. She definitely could have a lot more eggs inside of her, which is kind of crazy. I've never actually seen a ball python just lay one random egg. Usually it's at least 6 eggs at a time. And this one actually bred with my Coral Glow 100% het pied. So I'm hoping for Coral Glow, pastel, pinstripes, and they'll all be 50% het pied as far as the offspring. So I'll get a whole bunch of different variations with those different 3 genes and a possible head on top of that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this egg, I'm going to candle it and set it up in the egg box, put it in the incubator. Alright, so I'm going to incubate 1 egg so far from this clutch of eggs from this crazy ball python. I've never seen anything like this before. It seems like every time I have a clutch of eggs, there's always something really wild. It seemed like the last clutch of eggs I had, they were really stuck to the bottom of the tub, and it took forever to actually get those off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this egg box real quick. And I usually use 150 grams of this really fine vermiculite and then 150 grams of water for the incubator. I pretty much do the same thing. I've actually seen some people where they're so good at doing this after a while, they don't even weigh it out. They just kind of eyeball it and mix it together. It doesn't really have to be that exact. We actually have 150.1 grams of this fine vermiculite, and then I actually took this distilled water, heated it up to about 90 degrees because that's what we want to incubate it at, and I want to add a little bit to get it started here, and then I'll do the last little bit with this syringe. So we're like at 110. The last time I overshot it in the last video, I overshot my water here. 140. All right, we'll do the last 141. All right, we'll do the last little bit with this syringe and see how close we can get. Doesn't have to be that exact, you know, even within a few grams would probably be fine. At 149, 149.7. 150.1. Perfect. Can't get any better than that. And then what I do is I just kind of mix it together. This is the same thing I do for all my egg boxes. If you watch any of my videos where I'm hatching eggs, I pretty much do the same thing. I've actually seen some people do sponges in the bottom. Some people do like a perlite. I've actually seen some people where they just have water, just open water on the bottom of the tubs, which is kind of crazy. I think, you know, if you actually just had open water, you'd have to be really careful that you didn't splash the water on the eggs, because you definitely don't want water directly on the eggs. And then after I pretty much get all the humidity distributed through all the vermiculite, I kind of make sure it's all pretty much at the same level so the eggs don't roll around, and that this grading is pretty level. So a lot of people actually put the eggs right in the vermiculite. Some people actually use those new little egg trays. Those are pretty nice, but the problem with the egg trays is you really can't get them close together to where you can put a whole bunch of eggs in there. So for like a box like this, I can actually put 11 eggs in here, which is pretty much the maximum I found out from the last clutch. We actually filled it with 11 eggs, but with those little egg trays, it would actually come in handy for a situation like this where you just have, you know, just a few eggs, and then you could space them to where they're, you know, completely not rolling around in the egg tray, which I would think would be an advantage. So this one with just one egg, you know, that might actually have to really keep a good eye on it so it doesn't really roll around during incubation, especially when you're moving the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one lone egg from this female down here, kind of crazy. And this thing's already getting kind of leathery. It's been there for quite a while. So what I'm going to do is I want to candle this thing. I actually have a little flashlight here handy in my pocket, and we'll see what it looks like. It looks like it is a fertile egg. And it looks like the embryo is right there. It looks like it's been out for quite a while. You can see, usually if you have like a brand new egg that's right on the female, usually you can see the veins and the embryo a lot more than this. You can see it kind of jiggles around a little bit right there. And then you want to put an X right on the embryo because you want the embryo facing up in the incubation box. Another thing that I've actually seen a lot of people do, you have to really be careful with these pen lights because the tip gets super hot. And you definitely don't want the pen light too close to the egg. I've actually seen a lot of people put the pen light right on the egg and just hold it there for a really long time. And I would think that could potentially damage your egg if you get a really hot spot on your egg early on when you first kind of get in there with it. So this is pretty much it. Just one egg out of that. That's crazy. Well, what's the odds I could get, you know, a pastel pinstripe, coral glow, and then be het pied on top of that as well? It's kind of rough odds with just one egg, which is kind of crazy. So what I'm going to do is, it's pretty simple. I've actually seen a lot of people where they'll kind of put like little like popsicle sticks to hold it. I've never actually really incubated one egg before, so this is a, you know, an opportunity where I probably should have had some popsicle sticks. You know, I don't really have enough eggs to kind of wedge them. Usually I have a ton of eggs. So then I just cover it with press and seal, just like this, which is my one egg. Hopefully that girl will lay the rest of those eggs here pretty soon and not too late. Probably what I'll do is I'll separate all those other eggs into a separate box as she lays them, and then maybe mark the dates on them because I can kind of keep track of the days. As a matter of fact, it seems like every time I have egg-bound eggs, it gets a lot of mold and fungus on it. And this year, I actually might try springtails in my egg boxes. I've actually seen where some people have tried that. So they're like tiny little microscopic insects. You can barely even see them, and they eat mold. So potentially, they could really clean up those eggs and give them a better fighting chance, which would be kind of an interesting project to do. I think I'll do it on this one. So from here, I'm going to get my label maker and label that box. Alright, so here's the labels that I usually make. This is the laid date and the hatch date, so it actually takes 60 days before these eggs will hatch, so I definitely put that on there. And then I ran out of label maker tape for this label maker, so I went to my backup and I made the only backup I have is this really huge label maker tape, which is, I guess it'll work for now, but I definitely have to order some more. I can't believe I usually order like 3 packs. I go through that stuff like crazy, which is pretty amazing. And then I do pretty much the male crossed with the female. I only have 1 Core Glow male, and then the Lemon Blast, I actually have 4 different Lemon Blast females, so I just put the number 1 through 4 depending on which one it is, so I can just keep track of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this up in the incubator for my 4th clutch of eggs. I guess you can call this a clutch with just 1 egg in there, which is kind of crazy. Alright, so another one I wanted to show you is one of my clutches that are going to hatch next. This is actually going to hatch in about a month and a week, so almost about a month away. Not too bad, which would be pretty awesome. Then I can cut some eggs and we'll actually check it out. So you actually can see a lot of condensation up on the top of this egg box here. So what I do, usually when I get about a few weeks into the incubation, I usually just kind of gently fold back the tops, making sure I don't drip on the eggs. You definitely don't want that dripping on top of the eggs. And then I actually used to reuse this press and seal, and then for a while I was actually replacing it, and I kind of went back and forth, and I found pretty much you can reuse it and it retains pretty much the same amount of stickiness as far as kind of sticking to the egg box. So I pretty much went to where I reuse the press and seal every single time, and then you can kind of go in and get a little bit of the moisture off of the sides if you want. You don't really have to, but I kind of like to look in the box, and just from the front, then I can see how much condensation is in there based on how much condensation is on the front of the box. And then I just put it back on, and that is what a whole clutch of eggs is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have a bunch of eggs and not just one single egg, and they look fantastic so far. All look really big and plump. That's the way they should look. Nice, no mold or anything, no eggs starting to rot in there after, you know, almost 3 weeks being in the incubator at 90 degrees, which is kind of crazy. And in these egg boxes, it's like 100% humidity too. So that one's looking really good. Alright, so here's another box. That last box was my bamboo calico crossed with a lesser female. And then this one is actually my pastel inchy desert ghost crossed with my pastel calico het desert ghost, which is a really awesome clutch. You can see there's a lot of condensation in a lot of these egg boxes. You definitely got to get in there. And some people are just totally hands off and they don't mess with these at all, but I think your odds are better if you actually go in there and kind of remove a lot of the condensation so it doesn't rain down on your eggs, and it really keeps things under control as far as making your eggs look really good all the way through the whole incubation cycle. Those legs almost look like the day I put them in there. They're looking fantastic. And these have been in there, I think these have been in for about 3 weeks too, which is pretty awesome. So I just kind of wipe everything down, kind of remove a little condensation from the front, eyeball the eggs, and if I have actually see an egg that's really kind of bad, like really kind of moldy and even smelling bad, sometimes they get slimy, sometimes they get really furry, I definitely would take that egg out, put it in a separate box, and then try something else. I've actually tried to save bad eggs. I've tried iodine dips, I've seen people do bleach, I've tried in the, you know, the antifungal powder, and it seems like once an egg goes bad, it's really hard to save that egg. Alright, so here's the last clutch I wanted to show you. This is a clutch that was laid just a week ago, so this is about the amount of precipitation you can expect after the first week in the incubator. Normally, I wouldn't go in until probably like 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say. You usually don't have to go in every single week to kind of take off the condensation. But take a look at these. These are looking really good too, and a really big clutch of eggs on these. This is my biggest clutch of the year. 11 eggs in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 eggs. That is really awesome. And this is a really amazing cross. This is like definitely my best clutch of the year. So this one is actually a Banana Inchy Clown crossed with a Lemon Blast. So that Lemon Blast, I'm not sure if it's het clown. I've never bred a clown to it before, so it sometimes they can surprise you if you breed a visual recessive to something else. Sometimes you'll actually get a visual and discover that it's het for something. Like when I discovered my Desert Ghost was actually het. That was pretty wild. That pastel calico, I had no clue that it was het, and then all of a sudden I popped out a Desert Ghost visual, which is pretty amazing. Alright, so here is my 6-foot tall ball python egg incubator that I built out of an old beverage cooler, which I probably hatched hundreds of ball pythons out of this thing, which is pretty awesome. I can fit quite a few clutches down there, and I only have 4 egg boxes so far for the season. And I'd say it's like 3 clutches plus 1 egg. It's not, it doesn't even really count for a clutch, just 1 egg in 1 box, which is kind of crazy. Hopefully she'll actually lay the rest of those eggs. I'll definitely keep you updated as far as how many she lays and how those eggs look and if those eggs actually hatch. I don't have much faith in those eggs being kind of stuck in that female now that she laid 1 egg, which is kind of unfortunate. But everything else looks fantastic in here. And I still have 1 good egg, Coral Glow Het Pied, crossed with the Lemon Blast. Hey, you never know. Yeah, you know, who knows if that Lemon Blast could even be Het Pied too. Sometimes you can just pop out some random stuff and randomly pop out. You know, I've actually done that where I breed hets and then find out that whatever I'm breeding into is also a het, and you hit the odds and you just kind of surprise you with some of these visuals, which is pretty amazing. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming along and watching this crazy clutch of eggs. 1 egg from this crazy female. Hopefully she'll be okay with the rest of those eggs. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.